Welcome to the Everyday Fitness and Wellbeing podcast. In this episode, I speak to a person described by the Times as a bloke from Manchester with a shrewd business brain, who Theo Paphitis of Dragon's Den fame calls a Northern Anthony Robbins. So I invite you to make your mind up, dodge the occasional swear word, and have a listen to a conversation I had with the one and only Burton. We talk motivation, health, priorities, excuses, and the story behind this multiple author businessman and UK's #1 motivational speaker. Brad, hi, brilliant. Thanks for taking time out to do this. Good stuff. Now, I met you around 3 years ago at a business conference in London.
Okay.
Well, to be honest with you, you delivered a powerful speech, which it left an impression on me, and it left the audience highly motivated. So I can see why you have the title, the UK's #1 motivational speaker.
Yeah.
But for the listeners out there, can you tell us, well, what does the UK's #1 motivational speaker do? I mean, how did it all start as well?
Well, listen, you know what? People ask me, Brad, how did you become the UK's #1 motivational business speaker? And the reality is, Sean, I just made a website and said I'm the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. And I'm telling you something, here's the thing, there was no league table for UK's motivational business speakers. And I'm thinking, if I asked 100 people who the #1 was in America, everyone would say Anthony Robbins. No question about it.
That's
or
right.
99.9%. You ask that same question in the UK, and everyone would be scratching their heads, right? And everyone would be, thinking, give me different names. So I thought, well, those shoes, it's a bit like seeing a £20 note in a nightclub on the floor. Pick it up or don't complain when somebody else does. And I just saw an opportunity. Now, here's the thing. I couldn't, 3 or 4 years ago, I probably couldn't refer to myself as such because I couldn't have pulled it off. But right now I'm getting booked by the likes of Sage, JCB, the NHS. I'm the keynote speaker at the largest business show in Europe. I'm doing okay on that front, and I've got 4 books. So how it all started for me was 12 years ago. I told my employer to shove his job up his arse. I walked out of a job, £25,000 in debt, a wife that wanted me to go and get a proper job, and it was it was a daunting time to start my own business off, and it culminated in me delivering pizzas, funny enough, over in a seaside village over here called Burton. I absolutely delivered pizzas to keep my business afloat. And the reason I'm saying that, Sean, is that in order to get to be where you want to get in your life, you're going to have to do shit you don't want to do. In my case, it was delivering pizzas. So over the course of the last 12 years, I've built up a business which is called 4 Networking, a multi-million-pound business, run over 5,000 networking events across the UK, written 4 books, and I get booked by these amazing companies, these global companies, these billion-dollar companies. And that's why I call myself the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. But here's the thing. If I said to you, I am the greatest, which boxer am I referring to?
There's got to be Ali. Yeah.
Ali, the greatest of all time. Let me tell you something, Sean. The reason that we refer to Muhammad Ali as the greatest of all time is that 40 years ago, he referred to himself as the greatest of all time. Now, this is the thing. If he'd not done that, do you honestly think that 40 years on we'd be going out, Muhammad Ali is the greatest? Or do you believe that we'd be saying, well, I think that Floyd Mayweather is, and that's what he's done. He's taken it off the table. And that's what I've done with the UK's #1 motivational business speaker, and I'm getting booked as such.
Fair play. But regardless, back then when I first met you, I was there in the audience, and I met you afterwards because, I was converted. I went and bought the book, and actually, talking of books, as you say, you're author of 4. I thought it was 5 actually. Yeah, but you've got a new one out, in fact.
That's right.
And so far, I'm still to go through the others, but the one I'm referring to is Life, Business.
Business just got easier, which is my 3rd book.
I see, and I found it. To be honest, I found it very honest, obviously inspirational. I had a flick through again last night, in fact, in preparation for today, and I will have to reread it. I'm not blowing smoke up your backside, but I will have to reread it again because there's some good stories there, and stories are what can help with paradigm shifts. With
Sean, that's a really good angle that you just come up with. See, that's all I've ever done is be a storyteller, whether it's been a 15-year-old kid telling stories or whatever. And I realised that somebody wrote the other day about my new book on Now What, that online, that they said they don't normally like non-fiction books, but your book's really captivated me. And I said the reason behind it is that actually every single one of us has non-fiction stories. The difference is we don't share them. And I've been daft enough to share them. When you just said then, you was brutally honest in that book, is that's all I've ever been, because I've got nothing to hide anymore. There's no skeletons in my cupboard. I've told everyone every element of my life, the goods, the bad, the ugly, the downs and the ups. And I think that's the difference. I think my story is everyone's story. That actually, the danger is that what's happened, as you look at the likes of The Apprentice and you look at the likes of Dragon's Den, and you think that business success is having big opulence and Rolls-Royce Phantoms and big glass offices. That's not my definition of success. What my definition of success is my daughter watching Paw Patrol. Actually spending time there skimming pebbles. It's not having a Range Rover Sport outside anymore. Right, because I realised that actually that's kind of stuff doesn't make you happy, and that's what Now What's about. It's about actually taking stock of your life ahead of the point when actually you really need to take stock of your life. Because the only time that we've asked that question, now what? The only time is when we're dealing with the bereavement, a health scare, we've just lost a job, we've just didn't get a mortgage, whatever. That's the only time we ask it. And what I'm urging people to do is ask that question, now what, ahead of the time when they actually need to ask that question, now what.
Right. There's a lot there. And certainly food for thought. So you've been quite philosophical there about your view of business, but and it must have been quite a journey, I guess, really.
Oh, totally. I mean, I've had the whole thing where I've been racked with self-doubt. And, I'm making this up as I go along, Sean. In fact, we're all making it up as we go along in every element of our life. This is the first time in my life that I've ever been 43-year-old, in December, whatever date it is today. Same goes for you. And what happens is you look at the likes of Instagram and you look at the likes of Twitter and social media and think that everyone else's life is perfect. I never post a picture of me feeling depressed on Instagram and, hashtag depressed. Nobody does that. All it does. But it's true. Right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. So you end up painting a picture that everyone else is perfect in everyone else's life, and it's a really dangerous place to be in. And I've realised something, that actually life isn't perfect. And once you accept that life isn't perfect, things start going easier. It's when you start looking at everyone else's life and thinking, well, I don't have a Lamborghini, I don't have a Ferrari, therefore I'm a failure. Bullshit. I consider myself right now to be really fortunate, because I got to that stage where I was chasing stuff. I thought that the more stuff that I had, the happier I would become. And, that's what Now What's about. It's about, taking stock of it, because what happens is we say, our life's going to be good when you get a 14-inch television. You get a 14-inch television and say, well, actually, I want a 50 now, then a 60, then an 80, then a 100, then a 100-inch one that's curved, then you want 4K. And it never ends, and you spend your life chase. And then you get to the end of your life, and that's it. And what I'm suggesting is that this whole thing, Sean, is that we start looking more introspectively on ourselves and start being thankful for what we've got rather than what we've not. And now this is a completely unique approach to personal development, because you look at, like I say, look at the likes of The Apprentice, you look at Dragon's Den, it's win at all costs. Well, that's not what I'm about.
It's more gratitude, I guess, of and appreciating the smaller things.
Sure, I think. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have more money than less, right? That's the reality. So if I was pressing buttons to say more money or less, I'd be pressing the more money. But there's a price to pay for money, and sometimes it's being away from your children. Sometimes it's not watching Paw Patrol. Sometimes it's not missing your kids' sports day. One of the things I talk about. Yeah. One of the things I talk about in this book, Now What, is that I was at my boy's sports day this summer, just gone. Brandon, 7 years now.
Yeah.
And it was his egg and spoon race. And anyway, just before it started, I started picking up an email or a tweet or something. I'm just finishing that tweet off. And then there's a big round of applause and a whistle blown. And I have no idea whether my boy came first, last, third, second, fifth. Now, that to me, if you said to me, what was the email that I was sending, I've got no idea. You said, I'll give you a million.
sorry to groan, but yeah, I feel your pain there.
Well, yeah, and actually, I can send an email 5 minutes later, but what I can't do is see Brandon's egg and spoon race when he's 7-year-old. So I'm a dickhead for that. Did I say I'm a dickhead? No, that's the thing though, Sean. I think I'm as guilty as the next man. So for all my now what, life, business just get easier, we're fallible as humans. And once you realise that you're fallible as humans, you're less inclined to beat yourself up.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Again, it's just as I heard you way back when. Very honest,
Right.
very, very non-conformist. I think that stuck out when I sat there in the audience. You weren't all suited and booted, even at a business show.
No, Sean, I'll tell you something. About that. We spend so much time conforming, right, to what we believe you should do. So therefore, if you look at whenever I've gone for an interview in the old days, I'd wear a 3-piece suit and a pocket watch because that's what professional people do. So consequently, everyone else in that room is wearing a 3-piece suit and a pocket watch, and everyone's individuality is being sapped. So you end up being something you're not in order to win a job, which actually you're then having to act in order to perform and be you. And that's the tip here, is be you. And if people don't like you for being you, fucking next. But we end up spending, it's true, we end up spending, even if you're spending 20% of your time being something you're not, that means you're only 80% being you. And that means 80% effective. Whereas if someone like me, who is 100% me 100% of the time, I will beat that person to the punch every single time, because I'm not having to filter what I say. I'm not going to have to put it through and say, okay, is this the role that I'm playing here as a professional businessman or whatever it is?
Brad, there's so many questions I could ask. Really, we could fill a part 2, to be honest, if you got time. But today, I'm thinking of sticking to a theme of motivation. All right. I mean, I started off introducing you as the #1 motivational speaker, and I want to stick with this theme of motivation because of this time of year, or certainly as we enter the Christmas holidays, people they're already got in the back of their mind, right, I'm going to start the new year. It's going to be, there's this slogan sometimes used in the fitness industry of
New year, new me.
You took the words out of my mouth. So I've got a few quick fire, if you don't mind, questions on motivation, and I'm going to start with you. You're honest, so I'm no doubt going to get a honest answer here. What motivates you, and has it changed from those early days?
Great question, Sean. So back in year 1, I wanted a 10-bedroom mansion, an Apache gunship with Hellfire rockets, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, just shit. And actually, it's only when you realise that stuff doesn't give you any sort of joy. Now, I've got a friend of mine who's got £20 million worth of supercars, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being happy, 1 being miserable, guess where he is, Sean?
So you're pretty much middle or lower, or...
Try 2, Sean. So he's a 2. Right, so guess what he does to increase his happiness? Buy another supercar, get that quick on order, right? The new special edition, and he's broken, right? And I think that's what I was on. I didn't realise that wasn't the right what I was about. But my motivation has changed massively. I wanted a 10-bedroom mansion. Now I've lived in Masonettes all my life, right? I've come from a council estate background, and now I've got a 5-bedroom house over in Somerset. 5-bedroom. I have one room that I don't go in. If I had realised my dream and worked towards my dream of a 10-bedroom mansion, guess what? I'd have 6 rooms that I didn't go in. Yeah. And then you realise the futility of what you're actually chasing. You need to make certain that what you're chasing is exactly what you want. So my motivation now, bear in mind, over the last 12 years, I've wanted to quit 11 times. I've got as close as any single individual listening to this has got 11 times I wanted to quit. And the only reason I didn't quit is because I promised my son, baby Ben, when I was delivering pizzas, that I was going to go and take him to Disney World. Now, I am 31-year-old delivering pizzas at £5.90 an hour, cash in hand. You can edit that, right? £5.90, and I said to my boy, as a 1-year-old, I'm going to take him to Disney World. People would think I was tapped in the head. Anyway, I've taken him to Disney World for the last 8 years on the balance of my family. And I also promised my mum I'd buy private healthcare. She's 72 now. I pay £174 a month, I think it is, for a private healthcare. So I know my barometers of success. If I'm taking my kids to Disney World, and if I'm buying my mum private healthcare, then I'm doing okay. So it's no longer about Range Rover Sports with car exhaust and sports kits. It's now more about stuff or things or experiences that really are going to be those things that on my dying breath things that we talked about doing. It's certainly not going to be, we should have got a Range Rover Sport with a quadruple exhaust.
Wow. So value, certainly life values there are high up on the priority. I say life values, would you say, I know it sounds like an obvious answer, but life and business, now is it similar in business, the motivation kind of entwined with these goals?
Absolute shot. The best way to describe this, if you imagine, if you can, an empty pint pot, right, in front of you, and then to the left and the right of that pint pot is a half pint pot filled with water, right? One's business, one's life.
Right.
If you put those in the pint, that's exactly what my life's about. Because what I do is people say, God, Brad, you're so busy. Well, here's the thing. My idea of a work day is not 9 till 5:30. So what happens is the old days, I'd sit there employed at 5:20 thinking, fucking hell, I've got another 10 minutes to go here. And I'd sit there pretending to work, right, and the quick brown lazy fox jumped up the head. I remember doing it over and over again. And then you think, oh, only another 10 minutes. And then at 5:29, you put your jacket on and piss off. That's not what being an entrepreneur is about. So what I will do is I will find, if I can't be bothered working at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll be honest with myself and say, right, I'm going to go and play some computer games. Then if I want to work at 7 o'clock at night, I'll go and do the same. So I get optimum amount of activity out of every single day. I get 100% activity out of every single minute of every single day, because I will only do what I want to do. And I think that, to me, is that whole life business, that blur between working and enjoying life. So that's why I genuinely believe that my life flows so well, because I don't have this cut off that's work and that's business. They're one and the same completely.
Oh, there's going to be some listening though. Not to be negative, but there will be some listening who will say, "Oh, well, Brad, I can't do that. I've got my 9 to 5, or they may not be in business per se, but they may feel."
Listen.
Go.
Sure. Let me explain what I was told. I was told that I couldn't start a business off. I didn't have any working capital, £25,000 in debt. I was told by my wife to go and get a proper job. I was told by a literary agent that I couldn't call a book, get off your ass. I was told that I would never get it published. I was told that I'd never get it in Waterstones. My books have all been published all in Waterstones. I was told that I couldn't become a motivational speaker. I'd never get booked. Say JCB, the NHS, and the list goes on. So, yes, you can get this whole thing where you're actually told, that, you can't do it that way. And for some conventional businesses, absolutely, I get it that some bosses wouldn't appreciate that, and not everyone can be trusted, in all fairness, on that front. But that's the problem. That is the problem right now, is that we end up conforming and doing shit that we don't want to do, and then end up being something that we're not, because the rules and a framework around us. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't work for everyone, but that is why I get super efficiency out of my day, because I do what I want when I want, and actually I get the job done, and that applies to everyone on my team as well. So, genuinely, there's no point in grinding it out and pretending that you're working. Don't. I'm just, from everyone's perspective, be really honest about it and say, look, I'm not in any mindset to work here. No problem. Done. Gone. And as long as the job gets done, I don't give a shit.
Fair play.
Okay. So people think I'm crazy. I'm the one who's got this right. I'm the one who's got this right. I'm serious. But this is that brave new world in business. And I believe that in the same way that I've created with For Networking, the National Business Networking Organisation, I've disrupted the entire marketplace by going into the space, by doing things differently. Not differently just for the sake of doing things differently, but doing things differently and better. If you look at the speaking, I've done it differently and better. If you look at the way that I've done the books, differently and better. And I actually think that I'm now getting people copying my style. People are copying my network. People are copying my book, the way that I've written my books. People are copying my style as a speaker. And that's, when you start on anything that's new or fresh, people say you're mad. And then when it works, Brad Burton, networking genius, on a double page spread in the Times. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's only a daft idea if it doesn't work.
Sure.
And actually all my stuff is working.
Excellent. So then, who inspires you? Obviously not the guys on The Apprentice, but let's say who. Although Lord Sugar is from humble backgrounds, so
Listen, it does not in any way or form inspire me. Right, because that isn't success. Working 80-hour weeks forevermore, I don't give a shit how big your car is, how big your office is. That's not success. So I'll tell you who fires me up. Back in the day, I was unemployed. I'd done 4 years on benefits, right? So I understand what it's like to live on £36 a week. I understand what it's like to have no electricity. I never forgot that. But what happened with me was back in 1997, Tony Blair got into office, and within 10 days I got myself a job as a shop manager. So I've been long-term unemployed for probably 18 months, 2 years, and it was that whole thing that things can only get better, and that euphoria. And actually, once you ignite someone's belief that things can be better and that you can do anything you want. So for me, a big role model of mine was Tony Blair. Now I realise that there's things going on in his office that perhaps not as great as it once was, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But you said to me, my biggest influence in my life, Tony Blair. He showed me the way that you can do things differently, that you can get a soundbite culture, that you can have an open shirt policy to government and office, and you can run. And I copied my business for networking on Tony Blair's New Labour. I wanted him to, make the competition look old-fashioned and fuddy duddy. So Tony Blair, massive influence on me, as was Steve Jobs. Once again, you look at what Steve Jobs, no t-shirt, he'd wear his polo neck, his trainers, his cheap trainers and his jeans, and that's it. And nobody went, oh, well, I'm not going to work with Steve Jobs because he's not wearing a three-piece suit and a pocket watch. This guy was an innovator. But one of the things where I look at these guys who are innovators and who are hyper-successful, one of the things where I think they go wrong is they keep going. They keep being busy. They free up the time to then be more busy. Well, actually, that's not what I'm about. I'm freeing up my time to ensure that I am more effective. So rather than, let's say, doing 30 speaking gigs a month, I'd rather do 10 that paid as much as 30. So I'm getting a little bit smarter about my time now.
Sure.
So inspiration to me, Tony Blair, Steve Jobs. But what I will say is I find inspiration and motivation in everything. See, I had a nervous breakdown about 4 years ago. I'm all right now, Twitch.
Oh, good.
I am.
Sure.
But what happened is, as a result of that, I actually started looking at the world differently. And I find joy in a flower, in a spring flower, or the squirrels that come and eat the nuts over near the office. Genuinely, I find inspiration in everything that I see, everything that I walk past, everything that I read. I'm like that computer out of Short Circuit film. I just find inspiration in everything. I will find joy in everything. And it sounds all a little bit airy-fairy, but bear in mind I'm from Salford, Manchester, so I'm hardly a hippie.
Yeah,
but
sure,
I just
sure.
I look at the world differently now, Sean.
Wow. Do you reckon kids have done that to you?
Good call. So what I will say, Sean, is that my life turned around when Baby Ben came along, because for the first time in my life it was no longer about me. Because when it was about me, I'd get paid on Friday, go out and get shit-faced and be skint on Monday. Mum, can I borrow a tenner? Right?
Yeah.
And my focus was on short term. I'm feeling pissed off, so I need to get over this short term thing. And the point where my life started coming around and fixing up was when I started focusing on the medium and long term. Medium and long term. And that requires you to in the short term, to do uncomfortable things to get to it. But once you reach a medium and long term, everything's gravy. So yes, definitively, Baby Ben came along. Me delivering pizzas was a turning point for this new Brad that we see now.
Right. Okay, look, that's a lot of energy and mental focus and stamina to stay on top of your game. But listening to what you just said there, instead of doing the 20 speaking gigs in a month, you've reduced it down. But regardless of that, how do you look after yourself to keep this energy, this pumped up?
Well, Sean, listen, as a fitness professional, you'd appreciate me having 5 cans of Red Bull a day in KFCs, wouldn't you? Sean, I'll be honest with you. So going back to that whole piece about the nervous breakdown time about 4 years ago, I was going 100 mile an hour with my business, focused on business success. And my priority list was in 1, 2 and 3. My number 1 was business, 2 was family, 3 was health. And I was powering myself forward with ginsters pasties, 3 to 5 cans of Red Bull a day, partying on expenses, blah, blah, blah. 40,000 miles a year. I was 3 stone heavier, 17 stone 3, maybe 2 stone heavier than what I am now. 17.3 I was, but horrible 17.3. I wasn't happy with myself. In fact, I didn't know if I'm so that's unfair to say I wasn't happy. I didn't realise. It's not like, it's funny how your 40 inch waist sort of sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
But what happened was my priorities, like I say, were all twisted. Now, my doctor said to me, "Hey, Brad, you're borderline diabetic." And I ended up saying to him, "Only fat people get diabetes." And he said,
Wow.
"Oh, you are fat." Yeah. And I ignored that warning. And 6 months later, bloods came back. You've got type 2 diabetes. And he rang me up and I had a 15-second phone call. I put the call down, and as soon as that phone went down, that was it. I did 6 months of no cheat meals. Well, sorry, 3 cheat meals in 6 months. 3. Water every single day. Not the Red Bull on the head. Blah, 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 blah. And I got my bloods back down to a level which is I don't need medication. I never needed medication. And I go to the gym now and I start focusing on the gym. Now, my priorities now, I've been 4 years on from that, is 1, health, 2, family, 3, business. Which is a complete turnaround from where it was before, because something's got to give. So I go to the gym now 4 times a week, and I dick about, right? So I'm being really honest there. I've got friends of mine who are bodybuilders, and it's amazing. They go and give you like a 10 key weight and tell you to do bicep curls, and you do it, and then they say, right, turn your hand 3% that 3 degrees that way and so forth. And the next thing you go, oh my God, how have you managed to stack weight on top of this? So I know I'm cheating at it, right? And I'm looking at your pitch now, Sean, and you've got yourself a kettlebell there. I see people throwing these kettlebells around, and there's me as a 15.5 stone Mancunian struggling with a 12. You know what I mean? So I keep myself in reasonable shape. I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel. But what I will say is that this week, literally Friday, I was trying to take a selfie or do a video, and I couldn't find an angle that I was comfortable with. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, that means you're getting fat, right? I guessed my weight. I thought I was 98 kilos. I guessed it. I was 97.8. And going into Christmas week,
wow,
that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So since yesterday, I committed it. I put a video out there and said, this is where I'm at. I'm going to end up getting myself down 3 pounds between now and Christmas Eve to put 3 pounds back on. So I'm more mindful, Sean, than ever before. That is so crucial. That if you think about, if you had a computer that you're working on or your iPhone, you go and get it serviced or MOT'd with your PC. You'd have virus checkers on it and make sure it's defragged. Yeah. Don't do that with ourselves. We never MOT ourselves, ever. And that's what I'm about now. So more than ever before, I realise that actually in order for me to be a family success, in order for me to be a business success, I need to be a health success.
Well, you're going to have to either get down this way or we'll meet up and I'll put you for a session as well, perhaps in the new year. No, you stop that. Sean, let me explain something. I've got a friend of mine, I've got professional bodybuilders that want to support me in terms of my training. Honestly, I'm not up for it, and I'm being really honest about it. I'm being really honest. See, this is the thing, we end up agreeing to stuff that we don't want to do. We end up falling into a life that we don't want. Now, I'm now at that age and that stage in my life where I won't do anything that I don't want to do. So I'm being really honest. So rather than waste your time and say, yeah, that sounds really interesting, Sean, we should get together. But Sean, how many people would be honest with you and say, they're never going to do it? So I know that what I'm at right now is I'm never going to be as fit as you, ever. Right? That's not what I'm about. But what I am going to do is ensure that I've got a level of health which is acceptable for a 43-year-old. And that's where I'm at. And that's really the best outlook. If again, not blowing smoke up your arse, but if a lot of people I come into contact with would reframe and view that, hey, as long as I can maintain my health and I'm not chasing some goal, I'm in my 40s and I want to chase the goal of when I was 20 and I was in that swimsuit, etc. Actually, talking about this, staying fit and healthy, and in relation to changing your goals, or not goals, sorry, the value hierarchy, so to speak, of health, business, family. Like I said, reading last night in Life Business Just Got Easier, there was a good story or a good analogy you used of a play on words, perhaps. Success. I don't know if you remember.
No, success, yeah. Good God. You're coming back to 2013 now, Sean. My brain's having to work here. That's what I ended up with. I was focused on success. I ended up with success. I was ill. I was overweight and I mentally shot to pieces, but I had a multi-million-pound business. I mean, that's not a win.
No,
How
it
on earth
isn't.
is that
Yeah.
a win?
Yeah, yeah, very ironic, isn't it? Very ironic. And actually, you've.
Well, you know,
Sorry, carry on.
go on, Sean. No, go, Sean, bud.
I was just going to say you've become more mindful, which leads me into a lovely segue here. Have you tried? Perhaps know what the answer is, given that you're from Manchester, but I'm not going to make assumptions.
Go on.
Have you tried yoga? And do you do any meditation? Oh,
No.
Have you find any?
I don't. No, I don't do any of that. But that's not to say that I that disrespect it or don't believe there's merit in it, because I actually do. But my idea of meditation is playing with PlayStation 4, if I'm really honest.
Fair enough.
Shooting people.
Yeah.
It's a bit like 1993 outside the Hacienda again, isn't it, John? But that's what I'm about. Is that actually that's my meditation? That's my church, playing computer games. And I'm not being facetious or throwing a throwaway there. But I honestly reckon that I'm moving into an area of my life where that may well become a thing. I've got a friend of mine who's hyper successful, not the one who's 2 out of 10, but another one, and he swears by meditation, and he's no angel, I'll tell you that for nothing. And he swears by meditation in terms of being able to get his mind back and realigned. So it's not on the table right now, but it's not off the table either for future.
Believe it or not, Brad, you already do mindfulness. I'll tell you for why. I did have a look at one of your posts on Instagram, and the sheer fact of you, and something what you said just earlier in this interview about walking and taking a bit more appreciation of your surroundings,
right.
etc.
Right.
That's mindfulness. It's just
Right.
it's just unfortunate that mindfulness has been bracketed into this. Right, you need to sit in the corner with your legs crossed and stare at your navel.
Just
Exactly. But being mindful is as simple as, I'm no expert myself, and this is something I've found over the last few years myself, is taking those walks. And some people find it through going for long runs, but getting out in nature, and it ticks several boxes. This is me on my soapbox now, but it ticks several boxes of good for the soul, being able to going for a good walk, with whether it's on your own or with family, and just appreciating the outdoors.
Sean,
that's mindfulness.
I completely get that. And it's funny because I did it yesterday, and I did 5,000 steps from a step counter. And it's just walk the dog, and I get it. I get it more than ever before. Now, if you did, coming from this guy, the former me from Manchester, that makes no sense, walking and trees and things like that. But I get it. Skimming pebbles, as I refer to it as that's my walking the dog lol type thing. Going with kids and skimming pebbles. We got a 5 the other day. They could only get 3. You know what I mean? They got a bit of skimming pebbles.
Now, next question. Any daily habits? Okay, I know you just said about walking the dog, but any daily habits or routines that you've found work for you? I mean, this is something that's a guy, Tim Ferriss, is. I don't know if you heard of him, but he goes on a lot about, but not for everybody. But
what for me there, Sean, routines is social media, and I think that's some way or form a way for unloading my busy brain. So me tweeting, I've just walked the dog lol, or I've just had a cheese sandwich lol, then actually people go, well, that's not very professional. Well, actually, yes, it is, because all of a sudden you now get into a dialogue where people say, what do you prefer, mild or strong cheese? I'm being serious. And now you've got some affinity, because you're talking about Tyson the Labradoodle, and how strange it is that a guy who looks like a drug dealer has got a Labradoodle called Tyson. And that's the bit. So social media is my thing completely. It has moved from Twitter. Funny enough, it's an interesting one. This about goals. I got a blue tick on Twitter, and then instantly my interest of that blue tick fell away of Twitter. What's that about? I mean, I've done. There's only one account that I've ever seen on Twitter that has done more tweets than me, and that's Xbox Help Desk. 300,000 tweets manually. So no auto tweeting that. 300,000. I've just walked the dog lol. So routine wise, is social media primarily, I'd say, but also speaking to people. I love speaking to people. I love it. I'm a social animal. I get off on speaking to people and making stuff happen.
Now in the show notes, let's scrub that. What I'm trying to say is that the show notes or the information available for which I'll put on my website on how folk can get in contact with you. So obviously social media, but in general, where your website or Instagram.
This new book of mine, you go to bradburton.biz/nowwhat, because I've got myself a new seminar, which is really a 4-hour seminar over in Birmingham on the 25th of January, called the Now What Seminar, which is all these teachings from the book within there. But in terms of getting hold of me, just go to Google Brad Burton. I'd love to hear back from you in terms of social media, but I am on Facebook and Twitter. But however you get hold of me, I will respond. I respond to every single individual. But primarily, I would say if you are interested in following what I'm about, do Google me or do check out Amazon and look at my books. I'm the highest rated and reviewed author, 5-star British author on Amazon. Yeah.
I'll certainly be looking at the new book. Just a couple of extra questions if you've got time, Brad.
Go for it.
Just quickly tell us a little bit more about the new book. It's on my Christmas list, but what can folk expect, or even if you do in chronological order the other books, what would you recommend?
So for all these books work independently completely. So my first one was called Get Off Your Ass, which was all about what it's like to start a business off, and all the self-doubt and the whinging wife in my case, the no money, the having to send checks off without putting a signature on it, all that sort of market trade, the managing director, that whole I'm the only person who's ever really captured the reality of what it's like to be starting a business off. So that's what Get Off Your Ass is about. Get Off Your Ass 2 was more about a transition from me realising that maybe, just maybe, I've got a positive, inspirational message, and it's how my background and the things that have happened in my life can help other people. Then Life Business Just Got Easier was the book about when I thought I'd made it from a financial perspective. I had but I was shot to bits, and I'm thinking, oh, hang about, that's not right. How does this work? I'm supposed to be successful now. Yeah, I didn't feel it. Life Business, and then Now What, which is this whole one, which is like, somebody described it the other day. It's a bit like The Force Awakens in my books. It's a revisit of all those books there, but written in a different manner with this new thinking and how you do it today. But Now What? It's an interesting one in that one of the guy who founded Costa Express, Scott Martin, said it's spectacularly direct, honest and inspirational. When you've got people like that, or Gary Turner, the UK managing director of Xero, said, Brad has sometimes the brutal ability to refocus your head on what's important in life and business. And when you've got the Times turning around and saying, behind the bluff exterior is a shrewd business brain. When these guys are referring to me, and bear in mind, I don't have a single qualification to be named, not one. I was brought up in the council estates in Manchester. My dad left when I was 6 months old. And that's what I was saying. I was delivering pizzas 12 years ago. What's your excuse? Yeah. What is your excuse? Because we tell ourselves an excuse. We always give ourselves a story that actually why we can't succeed is because of. And I'm telling you something. This is the thing. This is what Now What's about. It's about not walking past the opportunities that you see, because opportunities that I have in my life now would have been there all the way up until the point I was 31 years old. But for whatever reason, I just walked past them, or I played in my head that I'm a northern monkey, or I was never going to amount to anything. And consequently, guess what? I stayed, in that position where I was never going to amount to anything. And that's what it's about now. What it's about, seeing the opportunity. Now, here's the thing. Every single decision that your audience has ever made in their life has brought them to this point where they're listening to my words. Now, they can either think, okay, this guy's trying to sell me a 13 quid book here. Or maybe, just maybe, as is the case, that this is a decision that you've got to make. Not only a decision to say, okay, yeah, I want to buy it, but also a decision to read it. And this is the answer that is in front of you right now. Is just there. And I had a guy say to me, I spoke the other week, and he said, I'm at a now what situation in my life, and for the last 7 weeks I've not really known what to do with it. What do you recommend? And I said, I recommend you buy the book Now What, which is right in front of you. And I said, do you see? I said, do you not see? You've just said to me that for the last 7 weeks you've spent 7 weeks in turmoil with a decision that you can't reconcile. I'm here, been speaking for the last hour. I've got a book called Now What. You're asking me what the answer is. I'm saying it's that. Now, you can be either cynical and say, well, okay, this guy's trying to sell me a book, which, yes, I am, right? Or maybe, just maybe, that all the stars have aligned so that this guy presented himself today, and that's what now it's about. It's about no longer walking past the opportunities that are there in your daily life, day in, day out. But the difference is we walk past them or we don't believe it's for us. And that's what it's about. Because if you look at me, a guy who, once again, 25 grand in debt, no qualifications to my name, dad left when I was 6 months old, my mum brought me up, council estate background, I got shot at when I was 21 years old and got 2 bullets through my window, went away. I've done 4 years in the dole, I've been depressed, I've been addicted to drugs twice, I lived in a council's masonette, I was near bankruptcy, and yet I now run a multi-million-pound business, and I'm now the highest rated business author, and now the business. So what is your excuse? So fundamentally, here's the thing, my ingredients have always been the same. A little bit woe, a little bit way, risk taker, good bit of patter, charismatic, and this kind of stuff. The only thing that's changed in the last 10 years is my recipe. So if you think about it, that you have all the ingredients that you need to be a success, you've just not got the recipe where it needs to be. And the only way that you're going to get your recipe to where it needs to be is by making decisions, good ones and bad ones. And your success or failure in your life will be defined by your decisions, good ones and bad ones. And I've made some fucking howlers in my life, but I wouldn't change a thing, because here's the thing, a mistake is only a mistake after the event. Up until that point, it's the correct decision. No one, including me, wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to go and fuck up today. But occasionally I do. But as I said, your success or failure is going to be defined by your ability to make decisions. So, I'm asking a question right now, now what? And only you can answer that.
Brad Burton, you've answered my last question, really. I was going to say any takeaway messages for the listeners, but I think that pretty much sums it up, of what they can do right now or what they can do tomorrow.
Right. But you know something, Sean? I always ask this question, why wait? Why wait? Ask that question right now. Why wait? Well, see, my wife, for me to start my business off, she wanted me to get 3 months' worth of money. Mate, that would have took me 3 years to do. And then what happens if the alternator on the car goes, or the boiler blows up? So now I've only got 1.5 months' worth of money, right? I've never starved to death, not once. It's been fucking close, right? I've lived on Tesco's beans and Aldi waffles, right? Not a problem. But that's fine. Because actually, I needed to do that. As I said, it's not about the short term, it's about the medium and long term, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm focused on the medium and long term.
Brad Burton, thank you very much. And there we have it. Thanks for listening, and hope you found something useful to think on. If you want to hook up with Brad, you'll find him on all the social medias. For Twitter, at Brad Burton, that's capital B for Brad and a capital B Burton, all one word. Similar with Facebook, but it's the Brad Burton. Instagram, it's at Brad Burton. Failing that, go out and get the book. Now What? I've bought it, I just need to read it. And failing that, you can also go on the website bradburton.biz. That's bradburton.biz. Once again, thank you for listening. And if you want to hook up with me, check me out on www.seannewton.co.uk. I'm also on Twitter. Let me know what you think. More podcasts to come. Thanks again. Take care.